Hello everyone. So today I'm actually going to continue my tips video while I am working on a video series of tutorials. So today's tip is going to be on iterators. Now if you don't know what an iterator is, it's pretty simple. You can also read more about them on the docs.python.org website. Basically, if you were to do something like a for loop, you'd be using an iterator. And basically what it does is it takes a list of whatever you're doing and puts a variable in that place, and then it basically does that over and over again until it runs out of everything in the list, and then it returns a raise error, or it raises something called a stop iteration, which tells it to stop doing stuff because there's nothing left. So basically, an iterator will keep doing things defined in next. So a for loop has its own definition for next. What I'm going to teach you guys how to do is make your own class with an iterator and its own defined next in order to do something. And in this case, we're going to be taking a string and print out each letter in reverse using a for loop and our class that we make. So of course, to make your class, you're just going to type class, and we're going to name this one reverse, and we're going to have an object that it takes, so put that in the parentheses, do a colon, and then we're going to def the init or initialization constructor and have self comma word in there. So word is going to be our object. You can also name it string if you wanted to, because it is a string, but I'm just going to use word because that's what I usually do in place of string. It's just shorter. Anyways, then your colon. Now what we're going to do in here is just say that self.word is equal to word. So when we have something take self, it'll also have word. The next thing we're going to do is define basically the list that we're going to use. And our list is going to be, well, our string is kind of the list. We're basically going to take it so that we can have a list that does things. So for example, we're going to start at the length of that string, and then we're going to go in reverse so that it'll do like -1, -2 in that, -1, -2, -3 in that list, basically meaning that it will do it in reverse because the string will be turned into a list from it. That does sound complicated, trust me, it'll make a lot more sense later on. So we're just going to do self dot, I don't know what's a good name for it, self dot li, let's just do that for now. So self dot li is equal to len of word, or the length of it. Now what we're going to do is just define the iterator constructor. That is iter. And remember to put your double underscore in front and double underscore afterwards. This is just going to take the self argument, and then we're just going to have the iterator return self. Next is the main part of what we need to do, and that's define next, which will also only take self because that's where our iterator is. Now in here we're going to make an if statement at first, and that's going to be if self.li is equal to 0, or if the length of the words is equal to 0, then we're going to raise stop iteration. So this will be once there's, because we're going to be taking away 1 for every length of the word, this is going to tell it when the iteration is over and tell it to stop, just like in a for loop. Now we're going to make an else statement, and this one will be self.li minus equal to 1. So basically minus self minus 1 is equal to self dot, you get the point. It's self.li is equal to itself minus 1. Now after we do that, we're going to do return self.word, and then we're going to have it take And basically, just like like a list would take a number, we're going to instead give it the argument of self.li. So it'll take the last letter. Now we're done with that, and we're going to make our for loop. You can also just make this into your own function if you want to by enclosing this in a function, but we're just going to do this in a quick little scripting way. So for x in reverse Kurt print x. Now what it did, if you look here, is it printed the word in reverse, but it did it one letter at a time. So how can we fix that? Well, if we import sys, or the sys module, we can do for x in reverse and then give it Kurt again, and then we can just do sys.std out dot write and then x, and then we don't have these little line breaks. You should be able to do that if you've seen my sys tutorials or my sys module tutorials. If you haven't, go and watch that. I think they're good tutorials, but I have a bias with that anyways. So that's pretty much a little tutorial and tips on how to use iterators in classes. And a big part before we leave is that you need to make sure that if you're going to define a class with iterators, that if you define next, you need to make sure that next has some sort of stop iteration clause in it, so that it will stop it at some point. If we don't do that, that's a test worthwhile. You'll see some strange results. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments or on my channel or some way of contacting me. Also, before I leave, I'd like to tell you guys that I'm working on a website right now. The link will be in the description. Keep in mind, this website is basically in like the alpha stage. I haven't really completed much of anything yet except for the design. I didn't spend any money on it, so it's a subdomain, not a first-class domain like .com. Instead, it's .comyr.com, and the name isn't really even final. If you guys have any tips or recommendations, I guess, for the website, also leave those in the comment or some way of contacting me. That is pretty much all I have to say. Again, visit the website. I do have a lot of this stuff on there as well. I am teaching about Python and HTML. There's also some math and other stuff on there too if you're interested in that. Anyways, this video is probably a lot longer than it needs to be. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll be seeing you later.